Chapter 156, Second Encounter 4. Amy realized that Freeman was far more tactical than she had expected. His use of schema, compound eyes, and 3% anti-magic nullification even neutralized her sniping efforts. He had mastered all ranges, close, mid, and long-distance combat, allowing him to fight on his own terms. Were you hiding there? Freeman soared into the air with his gun loaded with magic bullets. He moved through the treetops, but his progress was slower and less fluid than before. What followed was a relentless chase. Amy kept firing, but none of her shots could land. Even with her enhanced targeting system, the 3% margin of error proved too much. She considered getting closer. Mid-range combat might give her an edge, but that would mean stepping into Freeman's domain. This is my only shot. She didn't give up. Amy stuck to long-range sniping, even though Freeman looked as if he might start yawning from boredom. No matter her approach, Freeman was untouchable. At long range, he couldn't be hit. If she got closer, his compound eyes would let him dodge everything. I heard a wizard's mental strength has its limits. At first, Amy had the upper hand. She didn't need to reload, and her magic was powerful. But magic wasn't infinite. As time went on, Freeman's advantage grew. Her flame strike slowed. Freeman saw his opening and went in for the kill. Amy was nearly out of magic. Her mind felt like it was burning out. Her omnipotence, driven by mental energy, was drained. Ha, ha, but she refused to quit. With the last silver of her strength, Amy launched one final flame strike. Freeman watched calmly as a ballistics expert. He had already calculated that the shot would miss. The impact point was 10 meters off. He raised both guns, fingers on the triggers. She couldn't even maintain flight magic anymore. As far as he was concerned, she was now just an ordinary girl. Pop. Suddenly, a powerful shock struck Freeman in the temple. For the first time, emotion flickered across his face. Confusion, surprise. The flame strike was clearly off by 10 meters. So why did it hit? That was the end of his thoughts. The blast had struck a vital point. Freeman crashed to the ground, his face engulfed in flames. Marcia, Amy clinging to a tree, finally descended. Her body gave out, and she collapsed to the ground. She was completely drained. It felt worse than pulling 4 all-nighters in a row. But her gamble had paid off. That alone lifted her spirits. Ha, ha, I did it. I won. Her last flame strike had a range of less than 100 meters. If Freeman hadn't moved closer, the spell would have fizzled out. But he had advanced, and that was his mistake. Amy abandoned the 200-meter range and gambled everything on one final shot. The flame strike curved mid-flight, locking onto the zone where only flame-based magic could hit. That bypassed Freeman's 3% anti-magic margin. If her previous attacks were like throwing stones from afar, this one was like walking up and smashing him with it. Still, I'm glad I won. If I'd died, I would have been too embarrassed to go to heaven. Her allies were still deep in battle. There was no time to rest, but Amy, exhausted, dragged herself toward the cliff and collapsed onto her back. Freeman's face burned, yet he didn't even groan. The moment he regained consciousness through the pain, only one thought consumed him. I have to get to Marcia. Amy's flame still licked at his skin, but Freeman's body rapidly regenerated. Suspended between life and death, Freeman's thoughts drifted to the past. Hey, it's Freeman the coward. Let's look at his eyebrows. Bet he'll cry again. Freeman had always been a target, always a coward in the eyes of the neighborhood kids. He blamed it on his eyebrows, severely slanted, drooping downward like he was always about to cry. Ha, stop. That hurts. Then cry. If you cry, Marcia will come. Pretty Marcia. Don't mess with Marcia. You dummy. She's the alley boss. Nobody's bothering her. She's fun too. Cries easily. Ha ha. Ah, Marcia. Freeman would run off crying every time. The other kids pushed him to tears just so they could hang out with Marcia. Sometimes they even threw rocks or jabbed his face with sticks. Hey, tell Marcia to come out. We wanna play war. Despite everything, Freeman always ran to her house. It was the only safe place. Her home was barren. Her father, a mercenary, didn't even furnish it. When he returned from work, He sometimes beat her. Whenever Freeman visited, he'd find Marcia sitting in a corner. No bed, no table, no blanket, just leftover bread and a glass of milk. Marcia, I got hit again. Marcia always kept her hair short, but she had a pretty face and welcomed Freeman with a smile. Sick of getting beat up yet? Why do you keep hanging around those kids? I don't. They find me and mess with me anyway. Fine, I'll go tell them off. Where are they? Freeman sniffled. Don't go. What if your dad comes back and hits you? He'll hit me either way. But if they keep bullying you, I won't play with them. No, I don't want you smiling at those kids. Don't force yourself to play with them just because of me. Oh, thanks. Then get stronger. You're still such a wimp. Marcia flicked his forehead. Freeman, offended, ran to the door. I still hate it. Don't go. What's gotten into you today? Try yelling at them like that. Hey, do you like me? Is that it? Jealous of the other kids? Freeman flushed bright red. His heart pounded in his ears. Marcia laughed. Kidding, kidding. You're such a pea-brained. Yeah, I like you. So what? You're a girl. Marcia stared at him, stunned. Can't I like you? I never told you to like me either. It's my heart. I can do what I want. Just because I'm a coward doesn't mean I can't love someone. Freeman, always awkward with emotions, exploded. Marcia, realizing things were getting heated, raised her hands to calm him. Okay, okay, I'm sorry. Of course you can like me. Geez, you're treating me like a fool. Marcia chuckled and took his wrist, guiding him to sit down. I didn't mean to. Calm down. She grabbed her tattered cloak and prepared to head out. Freeman sat silently, embarrassed. Then he asked softly, You're really gonna play with them? No, I'll just tell them off and come back. Play with me later, okay? His face lit up. Really? Come back quick. Sure, if you're hungry, eat the bread and milk. I already ate. After Marcia left, silence returned. Freeman sat there, swallowed by the emptiness of the room. I was going to give this to her. He pulled out a small hand mirror, something he'd saved up for 3 months to buy. Marcia had nothing, not even a mirror. I mean, she's still a girl. Shouldn't she have one? Freeman smiled, imagining how happy she'd be. But the face in the mirror wasn't smiling. Those eyebrows, they earned him the nickname Crybaby. After 10 years of hearing it, he became one. Are they really that weird? Guess so. Years passed. By 17, Freeman was still seen as the neighborhood coward, but he had earned respect for his hard-working nature. Still, the only person who truly mattered to him was Marcia. He saved whatever money he could just to buy her gifts. Even if her father took them away, seeing her smile made it worth it. But lately, her smile had faded. He suspected the reason. Her adopted father had gotten worse. Many kids in the village had it rough, but Freeman's own drunkard father just called him names. Then one night, everything changed. Marcia, he visited her house, worried. She'd seemed unusually down earlier. When no one answered the door, his anxiety grew. He climbed in through the window. It was summer, and nobody had anything worth stealing anyway. Marcia, are you? He froze. There she was, kneeling under the moonlight, a bloody knife in her hand, a corpse on the floor. Oh, Marcia, Freeman ran to her. He didn't know where the courage came from, but he knew he had to act fast. Wake up. What happened? He shook her by the shoulders until she blinked and looked up at him. Dad, he tried to assault me. Freeman went numb. He had always suspected the man was twisted, but to hear this, a wave of sickness, fury, and grief crashed over him. We have to run. Your dad's a mercenary. His comrades might come after us. Marshall blinked. That snapped her back. She stood up, laughing, a bitter, hollow laugh. She had nothing to pack. Freeman took her wrist and they ran, all the way to the village gates. They didn't stop once. Huh, we're safe for now. Yeah, he won't chase us out of town. Even if the world hunted them, they were ready to run to the ends of the earth. End of chapter 156. Chapter 157. Second Encounter 5. Thank you, Freeman. Hehe, what's all this for? Let's get out of this hellhole already. I can feed at least one more mouth, no matter where we go. Marcia was taken aback by his unexpected words, but then she realized. It was time. Her voice softened with regret. Freeman, I'm sorry. I'm leaving alone. I'm not taking you with me. What? Why? A woman out there alone? What do you expect to do? It's dangerous. I'll be fine. Somehow, I feel like I can do anything now. No, absolutely not. I'm going with you. You can't go alone. Marcia hesitated one last time, but no matter how she turned it over in her mind, she knew she couldn't take him. Freeman had a family. He was like an adoptive father to her. Yes, but unlike her, he had her real family, bound by blood. Freeman, I don't love you. Her blunt words made Freeman flush red. What are you saying all of a sudden? You're a good friend, but that's it. I'll never see you as a man. It wouldn't be fair to you if you came with me. I might marry someone else. Freeman's heart shattered. Cruel. It was so cruel, Marcia. Why say something like that now, when it might be the last time? He clenched his fists, grinding his teeth. If that's how Marcia felt, then so be it. Sticking around her only brought pain in the end. I don't care. I'm still going. I'm done being called an idiot by my drunken father. This is my choice. Marcia snapped. Freeman's stubbornness drove her to the edge. You fool. Why can't you understand? I don't like you. So what? I don't care. You don't have to like me. I'll just keep loving you. Even if you marry someone else or have kids. I don't care. I love you anyway. You have no say in that. Marcia shouted back in rage. Fine then. Stare at me till the day you die all alone. Want the truth? You following me is nothing but a burden. How long am I supposed to babysit a coward who can't even kill an ant? You're just making it harder for me. I'm not a coward. I will protect you. Oh, yeah? And how exactly are you going to do that? What can you even do? Ah! Freeman screamed and dropped to the ground. He grabbed a sharp rock and started gouging at his eyebrows. Marcia gasped and rushed to stop him. What are you doing, you idiot? Let go. Just let me go. He was out of control. The sound of his skin peeling off made her stomach turn. Marcia stared in shock as he scraped until his eyebrows were gone, blood smearing across his face. Then he stood, face a mask of crimson, and glared at her. How about now? Do I still look like a coward to you? Those damn eyebrows made me look weak. But now, no one's touching me. I won't be a burden to you anymore. Are you insane? Marcia was speechless, but Freeman meant every word. His new look was terrifying, but behind it was the saddest expression she'd ever seen. I'll get stronger, no matter what it takes. Just let me stay by your side. I don't care if you never love me. Just let me come with you. You stubborn fool. Marcia let out a heavy sigh. She knew this wasn't how it should go, but her sigh felt like defeat. Marcia. Freeman's eyes shut open. His face, once scarred by burns, was now fully healed. How long had it been? Was it already too late? It didn't matter. He had to go. He'd made a promise. Until Marcia died, even his life wasn't his own. I'm coming. Wait for me. The energy he'd used to crawl back from death was overwhelming. His body was heavy, his legs numb, but he kept walking toward Marcia. Asterisk, asterisk, asterisk. Amy gritted her teeth as she raced down the mountain trail. Her head had cleared enough to think, but her magic was still unresponsive. She couldn't afford to slow down. The fight wasn't over. Freeman was out of the picture, but one more powerful foe remained, Falcoa, just a little more. As the summit neared, Amy pushed herself harder, only to freeze when she reached the top. There before her was Leon. There before her was Rian, battered and broken, holding Falcoa in a grappling hold from behind. But what stunned Amy even more, was Tess sprinting at full speed, her sword aimed straight at Falcoa. Tess' eyes were wild with rage. At that speed, she would stab Falcoa, but Rian would be caught too. Yet neither hesitated, as if they had silently agreed to this fate. Tess' saber pierced Falcoa. Rian's eyes widened, his shoulders twitched, blood gushed from his mouth. 20 minutes earlier, Falcoa's attacks were a brutal spectacle, ferocity over finesse, a beast's violence, not a warrior's technique. Rian had no room to think, barely managing to survive the onslaught. Falcoa found an opening and slashed Rian's thigh. Rian, Tess cried. Rian had done better than expected, but with a leg wound, half his strength vanished. Enraged, Tess retaliated, but Falcoa was a battle demon. injuries meant nothing to him. He focused purely on offense. Her attacks slowed under the pressure. As the fight wore on, both she and Rian were torn up, like clothes left out in rain, soaked and tattered. Ha ha ha, is that all? That was fun. For the first time in ages, Tess ignored him, turning to the gasping Rian. You okay? I'm holding up. You? Tess' eyes welled up. What was the point of enduring anymore? Falcoa had left deep marks on Rian's body. The pain she felt watching it was unbearable. She gripped her saber. Even if it cost her life, she would kill that monster. Yeah, she lunged forward in the Elsane family's signature charge, but the gap in strength couldn't be bridged by technique. Falcoa backstepped easily, faster than her charge. He smirked, then dashed forward, deflecting her blade and slamming his knee into her ribs. Not bad, but I'm just getting started. He raised his sword to finish her. Time slowed. Tess saw the blade descending, but her body wouldn't move. I'm sorry, Rian. I wanted to land at least one hit. Then Rian charged like a bull, tackling Falcoa. Ah, he knocked Falcoa off balance, but it wasn't enough. The demon warrior adjusted mid-air, landed cleanly, grabbed Rian by the neck, and drove his knee into his gook. The force tore through Rian's inside. Falcoa grinned cruelly. Don't worry, I'll take good care of your woman. Something snapped in Rian. Tess wasn't just a friend, she was someone he respected. For a bastard like you. He grabbed Falcoa's collar and pulled with everything he had. You're not taking her. Falcoa reeled from the force. This wasn't the Rian he knew. Where was this strength coming from? Rian moved behind him, locking his arm in a wrestling hold. Falcoa couldn't swing his sword. You little. Falcoa strained his muscles, bulging, but Rian held firm like a statue. Tess, stab him. But she understood. This was the moment. If she didn't act now, Falcoa would win. But she couldn't move. She couldn't kill Rian. Rian. Oh, hurry, I can't hold on much longer. Rian's body screamed in agony. He had locked his body into a mental state of absolute resistance, an imaginary schema, a mental override of the physical body, powered by unyielding will. Tess, do it now. Yeah, tears flying, Tess charged. Rian was giving everything. If she let hesitation win, she'd turn his sacrifice into a joke. That's when Amy arrived. Tess, no. End of chapter 157. Chapter 158. Clay Marsha 1. As soon as Amy's cry echoed, Tess' sword pierced Falcoa's heart. Rian's eyes widened in shock, and blood poured from her mouth. Tess' swordsmanship had been flawless. The saber had pierced Falcoa's heart, and it was only a matter of time before his body ceased to function. Falcoa felt the unmistakable presence of death, but curiously, he wasn't afraid. In fact, death might be the closest thing to pleasure in this world. Marcia, he whispered. Surprisingly, the last words on Falcoa's lips were the name of the leader. A faint smile tugged at his mouth, as though he were seeing something beautiful in his final moments. Take me to the battlefield. Tess pulled her sword from his chest, and Falcoa's body slumped to the ground. With a heavy thud, Rian collapsed to her knees, gasping in pain. Rian, are you okay? Amy called out frantically. Rian turned to her, a smile still on his face. Hey, Amy, did you take care of everything? Tell me, where did you get hurt? Tess, how could you stab so recklessly? Amy shouted, her voice tinged with concern, but Tess, nonchalant, simply wiped the blood off her sword and flashed a mischievous grin. Relax, Amy. You really think I'd miss something like that? I was careful. The only thing stabbed was Falcoa's torso. Rian's fine. Amy looked at Tess in confusion. Wait, Rian's chest isn't bleeding, right? Wait, Rian's chest isn't bleeding, right? What? Tess snapped, her eyes going wide. Sure enough, blood was trickling from Rian's chest. Rian, are you okay? Stay with me. Tess whimpered as she rushed to Rian's side. Rian, who had momentarily lost consciousness, waved her off, and stood up with annoyance. Don't make a fuss, it's just a little scratch. I'm sorry, Rian. I should have been more careful. Tess mumbled, looking ashamed. Don't say that. If it weren't for you, Falcoa would have been much harder to defeat. You did the right thing. Rian disagreed, his concern showing. No matter how much you care for a friend, a shallower wound didn't seem better than a deeper one. It made Tess' decision feel more like a gamble than a calculated move. Oh, this wound is nothing. Let's go. I'm worried about Chiron. Explosions and strange sounds echoed from inside the building. Chiron must have been fighting the captain. It was clear that a more dangerous battle than the one with Falcoa was taking place inside. Suddenly, the wall of the building shattered with a loud crash, and Cyrone appeared, leaping out. Cyrone! Cyrone quickly cast a teleportation spell just before crashing into the ground. She skidded back 10 meters, the photonization spell deactivating as she took a landing stance, dragging along the dirt. Sharon, are you okay? Amy called. Don't come near. Sharon shouted urgently. Her frantic tone was unlike the usual calmness Sharon exuded, causing her friends to freeze in place, as though an invisible force had gripped their feet. It's not over yet. That sounds magic. That's sound magic, so approaching is dangerous. Marsha's sonar magic allowed for precise, long-range attacks. It was clear that after their exhausting battle, the trio would be caught in a devastating sound-based assault if they got too close. You are right, but I can last long enough against you, Marsha responded, crouching and stepping out of the building with a smile. Her smile quickly faltered when she saw Falcoa's lifeless body. Falcoa was dead. Although he had been a strange man, he had found connections with others and had some fun in life. 30% of his blood had been spilled in service to the pirate mercenaries, earning him his place in the history of the continent. No regrets, Falcoa. Marcia felt no need to check for a pulse. She knew what kind of death he would have preferred. Death by stabbing over a slow drug-induced death. Her thoughts quickly shifted. It was surprising that a student had taken down Falcoa, but considering his long history of drug addiction, it wasn't entirely unexpected. Marcia turned her attention back to Chiron. She had suspected it earlier, but now, facing Chiron directly, she saw the harmony in his magic. His teleportation was exceptional, and his photon cannon, a key part of his arsenal, was highly effective. The laser attack was an excellent siege weapon, though it had the disadvantage of requiring precise timing with defensive spells like Berserk. Still, it could be converted into an offensive magic when needed. It was the perfect balance of power and precision, honed through years of practice. But when intrigued Marcia most was that but what intrigued Marcia most was that Chiron's magic was unique, something no other wizard could replicate. Unlocker's magic, this should be interesting. While Marcia contemplated the situation, Chiron was busy analyzing the variables at play. Despite the many penalties inside the building, he wasn't at a disadvantage. There was no risk of hurting the hostages, which meant they could fight at full strength. It will be different now. I will never forgive you, Sharon declared. Huh, Sharon, you'll forgive me. Marcia teased. On what grounds? What you've done is beyond any reasonable forgiveness. You are right. Actually, Marcia grinned mischievously. It was all a lie. Sharon and the others were confused by her words, their faces blank in disbelief. Then Marcia shouted toward the building, Yuna, you can come out now. Her voice echoed, amplified by the building's walls, and moments later the door opened. A young girl walked out. No way. Is that Yuna? Tess asked, astonished. That's right, Yuna. See, I'm fine here. How about you, Sharon? Are you relieved now? Sharon remained silent. Despite his sharp intuition, he couldn't begin to understand Marcia's reasoning. Oh, you still don't get it. It's like when your older sister gets mad after a little prank by her younger brother. Everything I said was a lie, so forgive me, okay? Yuna lowered her head and addressed Sharon and the others. My sister did nothing wrong. In fact, Marcia only saved me. Rian let out a frustrated sigh. What the hell happened here? Someone please explain. But neither Amy nor Tess had an answer. It was obvious they were being mocked, but the question remained, why? What was Marcia's game here? Sharon was thinking the same thing. The pirate mercenary group was gone, and Falcoa was dead. But it didn't make sense for all of this to have been part of some elaborate ruse. If it's true, send Yuna here. The priority remained rescuing G's sister, but Marcia shook her head with a playful smile. Yuna, go back in. I'll send her to your brother later. Yuna nodded and disappeared back into the building. Sharon's frustration boiled over. What did Marcia want with this? There was no clear purpose, no meaning. It felt like a childish game to her, something to amuse herself with. What is this? What the hell do you want? Sharon demanded. Ha! Why? Yuna's fine, isn't she? Didn't you want her? Oh, or maybe you want to play the role of the hero of justice. No, it's not that. Sharon started, but Marcia cut him off. Now you get it. My sister did nothing wrong. It's you, Sharon, who's to blame. You made me sick, and I'll never hand Yuna over to you. Sharon entered the spirit zone. He knew Marcia was still preparing for a fight, but she was showing no hesitation in her hostility. Stay calm. She's challenging me. That's enough reason to fight. Marcia's motivation was clear now. She was determined to force this confrontation. Despite his own confusion, Sharon steeled himself. Then, just as he expected, Marcia dropped her defense. She spread her arms as if disarming herself and said, You can kill me. Sharon's heart skipped a beat. He realized now that what Marcia meant. It was a phrase he had heard before, a magical incantation he'd memorized from his adoptive father's teachings. Marcia wasn't joking. She truly seemed ready to die. What's going on, Marcia? Who are you really? Magic Association Investigation Room. Sakiri wiped the sweat from her brow, her shirt half undone, as she took a deep breath. She was clearly exhausted, but her forearm, still clutching the iron club, was firm with determination. Shall we get back to it? She asked, glancing at Lucas, who groaned on the floor. Lucas, vice captain of the pirate thieves, had been captured during the raid on the Magic Association. He had been subjected to hours of questioning, his legs frozen by Sheena's absolute zero magic. If it weren't for his magical protections, he would have died instantly. Stop, please. Ask me anything. I'll tell you everything. He begged, his voice cracked from pain. Just a little longer, almost done. Sakiri swung the iron club again. Lucas, writhing on the floor, couldn't escape the relentless questioning. Oh, please stop, he shouted in agony. Sakiri grinned as she struck him one last time. It's refreshing, isn't it? Exercise for the day. Lucas coughed up blood, clutching his side. He had risen to the role of vice captain, with skill surviving the attack of Arcane. But now, before Sakiri, he was nothing. Sakiri yanked him by the hair, tossing him into a chair. She sat across from him, glancing through the investigation files in silence. Sit still before I have to remove your other arm. Lucas, beaten and broken, sat, knowing there was nothing he could do. Sakiri didn't speak for a moment, carefully studying the documents before finally asking, Tell me about Marcia. Marcia, what do you want to know? Lucas rasped. Sakiri's eyes narrowed. Marcia had always been a political prisoner, a tough one to pin down. Information about her was scarce. Sometimes she was said to use fire magic, other times ice magic. She was elusive, a mystery in the intelligence community. That's why Sakiri had called Lucas in. She wasn't interested in where Marcia was. She wanted to understand who she really was. End of chapter 158. Chapter 159. Clay Marcia 2. Anything is fine. Spill everything you know, or I'll send you back to prison. Lucas stayed silent, thoughts racing. He had joined the pirate thieves, not the pirate mercenaries, so he didn't feel much loyalty toward Marcia. It wouldn't be hard to spill everything, but if he confessed now, he'd rot in the deep underground prison until he died of old age. How about we make a deal? A deal? What kind of deal? I'll tell you everything I know about Marcia. In exchange, reduce my sentence. I'll give you what you want, as long as it means I won't die in there. Sakiri stared at Lucas, confused. Then suddenly he burst into laughter, stomping his feet. Ha 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 ha. The desk toppled over as Sakiri jumped up and stormed toward him. You crazy bastard, do you even know where you are right now? He kicked Lucas, chair and all. sending him crashing to the floor. Even then, his rage wasn't satisfied. He stepped on Lucas again and again, but this time, Lucas didn't cower. He was desperate. It didn't matter if he died here or later. If he couldn't get out of this, it was all over. Go ahead, do whatever you want. I'm not talking unless we make a deal. Sakiri's foot stopped mid-step. Why are criminals always this shameless? If you don't want to go to prison, don't commit the crime in the first place. You're seriously out of your mind. Sakiri muttered, exhaling sharply. He turned around. Even while trembling, Lucas watched carefully. The fact that Sakiri stopped meant he was conflicted. Maybe, just maybe, he had a chance. But Sakiri did something unexpected. He opened the interrogation room door and gave a chilling order. Deactivate the magic limiter. Unlike anti-magic, which counters magic, a magic limiter suppresses the ability to cast it entirely. It's magic, yes, but designed by top-tier wizards and almost impossible to break through. Lucas swallowed hard. Don't panic, this was Sakiri's last move too. If he could just endure, maybe freedom wasn't impossible. Sakiri waited silently. After a few moments, there was a low hum, and the room's atmosphere changed. Lucas couldn't tell what exactly had shifted, but Sakiri now approached, lighter on his feet, head lowered. Tell me everything about Marcia. If you lie or hold back, what happens next will make you wish you hadn't. I won't talk. Never. Sakiri didn't flinch. He reached out his hand and began chanting like a spell. As a judge, I command you, let the scales of truth respond. Let the truth belong only to you. Lucas' face turned ghost white. He'd misjudged Sakiri. This wasn't some ordinary investigator. Sakiri was someone you should never cross. Shit, damn it. 10 minutes later. Ah, Lucas screamed, voice tearing through the room. The pain was unimaginable, far worse than when he lost his leg. Okay, I'll talk. I'll say everything. Just stop it. As soon as he screamed, the pain vanished, like it had never been there. Lucas, curled up in the corner, looked up at Sakiri in terror. You made your choice. If you want this to go smoothly, speak the truth. Lucas gave in. Lies and silence weren't an option. In front of Sakiri's spell, balance of truth, no criminal could resist confessing. Marcia, she's smart, makes no mistakes. She pretends to be cornered just to lure out her opponent's weakness, but she never crosses a line where she'd hate herself for it. A textbook manipulator. No, not a manipulator. You don't get it. What makes her terrifying isn't that she lies to fool others. Her entire life is a lie. That's why you'll never catch her. Sakiri leaned back in his chair, stroking his chin. That kind of personality alone wouldn't cause this level of chaos. But still, wait, could she really be? Lucas, seizing the moment, raised his voice. She's one of you. What? Marcia is a regular eater. Sharon tried to analyze her, but nothing added up. She was unlike anyone he'd ever met. Even if you kill me, fine. Heh, sure, do you hate me? Go ahead, kill me if you want. Sharon stopped thinking. If there were no answers, he would just stick to his convictions. If Fiona is safe, I have no reason to fight you. Marcia's lips curved slightly. As Sharon's spirit zone flared, he activated teleportation, but something went wrong. What? Suddenly his spirit zone vanished, and with it, the teleportation spell. An instant later, a sonic cannon roared. The deafening blast scorched his eardrums. Sharon crumpled to the floor, stunned. Rian's eyes widened. What's happening to Sharon? Acoustic cannons compress sound waves, so those further away only heard sharp shrieks. That's a sonic cannon. Sound-based magic, Amy said grimly. But that's not the real issue. Tess nodded. Right. The real problem is that Sharon was hit. A shadow passed over Amy's face. Sharon had clearly tried to teleport. His photonization. His photonization begun, but the magic was stripped away mid-cast. That wasn't an accident. It was stolen. Stolen? Stolen what? Tess asked. Amy's synesthesia let her see it. Marcia had absorbed Sharon's spirit zone, like dew being drawn in. His mind, maybe, even his sanity. No way. You can't steal someone's sanity. Amy ran to Sharon. Clay Marcia. a, class A criminal. If her suspicions were right, this woman was incredibly dangerous. Sharon, be careful. That woman's a dieter. Sharon raised his head. His ears bled, but his vara- Vajrapani mental strength was still intact. This is eating out of the rules. Oh, you know about it. Impressive. You must have studied well. Mages invent countless spells every day. The Magic Association registers them officially, but some magic, like eating out, can never be registered. Its power lies in omnipotence, drawn not from truth, but personal belief. It bends reality through sheer will. They were wizards who created their own rules and forced others to obey. Sharon remembered Sheena's lecture on eating out. Omnipotence is belief. She had said it lets fire burn at different temperatures, makes plasma at a lower heat, all because a wizard believes it's possible. She had written the words eating out on the board. The class had murmured, unfamiliar with the term, but some use omnipotence for personal gain, not to support a spell, but to warp reality itself. That's eating out. Teacher, we don't understand, a student had said. I'll explain. What's my job? You're a teacher. Exactly. So who here doesn't think I'm a teacher? Raise your hand. No one raised their hand. It was impossible. Denying it would contradict what they knew. That's the nature of the mind, Sheena said. Once an idea is in, it doesn't get pushed out. It just grows, so the thoughts of others can become our own. She pointed at them. Watch, I'll show you a demonstration of eating out. She stepped down from the podium. Everyone who thinks of me as a teacher dies. The room gasped. Though it wasn't real, her sincerity made it hard to resist. The spirit doesn't deny, it accepts. Is this real? Someone whispered. Don't panic, I'm not a real eater out, she said calmly. But the mood had changed. Of course, it's not that simple in real life. Eating out still follows the laws of magic. It must obey equivalent exchange. A boy raised his hand. But couldn't someone insane believe a rule like that is a fair trade? It's possible, but magic requires reason. Someone that crazy can't use it, and even if they exist, it won't work on you because our minds would block it. Exactly. That's why eating out has high costs and serious limits. You might set a rule like, anyone who sees me as a teacher must speak formally to me. Okay, that's not too bad. Right, but then imagine this. Anyone who speaks formally to me falls in love with me. The class laughed. Then anyone who loves me must obey me. The laughter died down. Finally, anyone who obeys me must die in front of me. The room went silent. That's how eating out works. Sheena said, you add restrictions and omnipotence fills in the gaps. Once someone's caught, they can't escape. Swallowing sounds echoed through the room. If this was real, it was a kind of magic no one ever wanted to face. But the real danger of eating out isn't in the restrictions, it's in the cost. She continued. You can't kill with logic alone, but if you're willing to pay the price. She smiled faintly. Let's try this. Anyone who doesn't think I'm a teacher dies. End of chapter 159. Chapter 160. Clay Marsha 3. The students were now fully focused. All eyes were on Sheena. But for him to die, she said, he has to spend the night with me. The boys turned beet red. Professor Seo, that's a bit inappropriate. There's no need to be embarrassed. I wouldn't actually do anything like that. The point is, you gain powerful abilities by wagering something you'd never want to give up. That's the rule of equivalent exchange. Even revealing the price can be a price. But what matters most is that the eater truly believes it. That belief is what allows someone to impose their deeply personal omniscience on others through omnipotent power. The students finally understood. A regular eater wasn't just someone with powers. They were people who thought completely differently from the rest of humanity. Just learning the technique doesn't mean you'll understand it. Seo continued. These are mental distortions, obsessions, and fixations that are almost pathological. For wizards, eating out is possible, the most terrifying concept of all. That was all Sharon had ever learned about eating out. Back then, he'd thought he understood it, but now that he was experiencing it, he was completely lost. And then there was the unexplained disappearance of his spirit zone. When had it happened? What triggered it? As far as he could tell, he hadn't done anything to Marcia that would warrant this. No, I did. I definitely. Suddenly the memory resurfaced. You can kill me. That was it. The moment it had all changed. A phrase only Marcia and Sharon knew. As soon as he said it, her omnipotent rule took root inside him and activated. His heart pounded. He'd been caught. What's going to happen now? He couldn't predict anything. Nothing made sense. Stay calm. The spirit zone's gone, but if I stay sharp, I can find a way out of this. Eating out was like putting the possible and impossible on a scale of and assigning value. The greater the power, the higher the cost. If you can kill me had been the trigger, then the consequence might be a long period of helplessness. Had he attacked in that moment, he could have killed Marcia. But he hadn't. Why? Was it because of Yuna? No, she's safe now. His thoughts spiraled. Nothing connected. From the very beginning, from the moment I met Marcia, I've been in her trap. Sharon felt a chill run through him. The bar, provoking Yuna, not harming Yuna. It had all been scripted by Marcia. All for this moment. Marcia laughed brightly, clearly reading his thoughts. Ho ho ho. Of course, though our meeting was a coincidence, I make coincidence inevitable. In any situation, I always prepare. That's part of my charm, don't you think? Sharon had to admit she wasn't targeting just him. She used this strategy on everyone, always laying groundwork just in case their paths crossed again. That foresight was how she'd evaded the magic association for so long. Now then, she said, strolling toward him with a carefree smile, shall we begin? I wonder what I'll be able to do. Sharon instinctively backed away. He tried to teleport, but nothing happened. This wouldn't last forever, but the idea of someone stealing mental energy was beyond his understanding. This can't be real. What kind of magic is this? Sharon was facing the worst crisis of his life. Marcia's eating out was dangerous, enough to disable his immortal function. His last line of defense. Ho ho, I'll take that spirit of yours. Sharon's mental energy, which he'd tried to channel into teleportation, was siphoned off by Marcia. She used that power to fire another sonic blast. Oh, Sharon turned and ran. It was a pitiful sight for a wizard, fleeing on foot, but without magic, a direct hit from a sonic cannon could be fatal. I'll give you credit for tossing aside your pride, Marcia called, but the fight's already over. You've already fallen under my deprivation, a form of eating out that allowed her to steal by disowning others. The specific spell she'd cast on Sharon was called looting, which let her drain the mental energy powering his spirit zone. Sharon kept running. He needed to buy time. He reasoned that if the spell had been triggered just by the phrase you can kill me, then surely there must be a time limit. Now, suddenly, he felt his power return. The looting had been lifted. Without looking back, Sharon began casting a large-scale area spell. Flashes of light exploded around them, like rolling thunder. The display was overwhelming, especially out in the open, where its full effect could be unleashed. Phew, impressive, Marcia said calmly. Really impressive. Sharon glared at her. She hadn't even flinched. She must have protected herself in time. Still, the important thing was this. If her ability had a time limit, he didn't need to fear it as much anymore. No one would fall for the same trick twice. Let's go. Sharon teleported directly at Marcia, but she remained calm. As soon as she crossed into her spirit zone, she reached out and whispered, eating out, rule seizure. Sharon's teleportation fizzled. He crashed to the ground and slid across the dirt. Oh, what? His magic had been interrupted again, but the spirit zone hadn't vanished. What? What? Sharon couldn't believe it. No such magic should exist. Watching him stagger in confusion, Tess turned to Amy. What's going on? Did something happen to him? I don't know. His spirit zone is still active, but teleportation just stopped working. Then it hit Amy. Her body trembled. No, no, this can't be happening. She knew how hard Sharon had worked. If her suspicion was true, Sharon stared down at his hands in disbelief. I can't cast magic. Bingo, Marcia smiled. Extortion through eating out only works when looting has succeeded. Of course, I also have to see the spell with my own eyes. She explained it like a teacher, but with the tone of a mocking villain. Chiron shook his head. This made no sense. Even if there were restrictions, no magic should allow someone to unilaterally take away another's powers. That broke the law of equivalent exchange. Wow, this is incredible. Sound magic never suited me anyway. Thanks, Chiron. You're such a sweet little brother. A sphere of light began forming in front of Marcia. It was a photon cannon. Magic that gave light mass. Sharon dove to the side just in time as a blinding flash crashed into the ground where he'd stood. Shards of debris splashed his face. Being struck by his own magic, there was nothing more terrifying. Phew, that sure eats up mental energy. How did you manage this? You're really something, Sharon. Sharon stood, his anger rising. But deeper than the rage was grief. To have all his magic stolen, it made his body tremble. But you know what? Marcia grinned. I like the unlocker's ability. She conjured another laser, casually showing off her stolen powers. Sharon didn't move. He couldn't even teleport. The laser streaked towards him. But at the last second, Amy appeared, grabbed him, and teleported them both away. She couldn't go far. Her own mental energy was almost depleted. Rian and Tess ran in to protect them. Marcia watched with amusement. The swordsmen were disoriented. Amy was barely holding on, and Sharon, the group's last hope, had been reduced to an ordinary boy. What did I tell you? She said. You can't win against me. It was a devastating situation, especially for Sharon. The psychological blow alone might have shattered an ordinary person. Screaming, sobbing, cursing, they'd have broken down entirely. Sharon, please, Amy said, steadying him. It's not over. But my magic, his voice shook. Amy understood too well. She would have fallen apart if she lost hers. Magic was everything to a wizard. The idea of handing it over to someone else. It was unbearable. Sharon, wake up. We're not done. Sharon staggered, but didn't fall. Some primal part of him pushed forward, but the emotional wound was deep. How do I fight like this? Think rationally. Amy said, there's no magic that just steals magic so easily. Equivalent exchange means there must be a huge cost. Sharon's eyes widened. She was right. He'd been so shaken, he didn't notice, but Marcia's robbery must have strict conditions. First, she had to successfully loot him, and second, she had to see the spell she wanted to steal. That was no small feat. But even with those restrictions, Marcia's eating out was terrifying. Amy pressed on. If she took it easily, you can take it back just as easily. No, easier. That's equivalent exchange, so don't give up. Okay, I'll try. Sharon's resolve returned. He didn't have a plan, but he wasn't going to give up. I'm not sure if this helps. Rian chimed in. But if she can only steal spells she sees, then maybe she hasn't seen something like the wind cutter I showed you at home. Oh, right. A sharp idea pierced Sharon's mind. Yes, robbery might actually be better than looting, because at least with robbery, the spirit zone remained intact. Yeah, I'll face her head on. Thanks, Rian. Amy moved to his side, wrapping her around him. I'll teleport us in close. From there, use Wind Cutter. She cast teleportation using every lost ounce of strength. Light split the air as they vanished. Marcia teleported away to counter. Even with stolen spells, she couldn't use techniques like Rainbow Drop or Patrol. She could only recreate what she'd seen, not understand or apply it creatively. Amy exploited that weakness. She closed in with flashy movement, then threw Sharon forward. Sharon extended his arm and launched Wind Cutter at Marcia. It wasn't a major spell, so he had to be close to land a hit. That disadvantage ended up being a blessing. Marcia instinctively backed away, farther than expected. What the? Her reaction was off. She could have countered with Photon Cannon or Berserker, but she chose to retreat. Don't tell me there are limits to her robbery too. A new possibility sparked in Sharon's mind. End of chapter 160.